Vegas has Oregon at over under 10.5 wins during the 2024 regular season. Oregon fans, make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. We have had a lot of y'all get on board within the last few weeks. We appreciate you for that. Hey, massive year out there in Eugene this year. Huge year. You want to be a part of it to the nth degree? Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Going to talk a lot about your Ducks. Going to talk a lot about college football as a whole. Lock in right here, and we appreciate y'all in advance for doing so. You look at how Oregon's built, and I keep on coming back to this thought around the Ducks, man. They check every box for me when it comes to what an elite college football team should have on the roster. Experienced quarterback, check, Dillon Gabriel. Played at a high level at Oklahoma. I think this system's going to fit him very well. Better than he did at Oklahoma, quite frankly. Elite skill players. Do you have them? Because you got to have them to win one-on-one battles when you play those really good defenses. You got to have somebody that can make something shake and score points for you. Had Tez Johnson from a season ago, who I expect his role to potentially expand, and he had over 1,000 yards last year. So role expanding is maybe a funny way to put it. Evan Stewart, who everybody wanted via the portal, one of the best receivers in the portal. Elite lines of scrimmage. Like a Johnny Cornelius and Josh Connerly are two names that maybe nationally don't get enough credit. Those dudes on the offensive line for Oregon are as good as it gets in the sport. They're going to have a chance to make a whole lot of money here in the NFL when it's all said and done, and they anchor that offensive line. Also, this is where we'll get maybe a little bit of pushback, and that's fine. I believe Dan Lanning is an elite head coach. Not really good, not up and coming, though he has both those things. I think he's elite. You say, well, JD, but he hasn't really done anything, has he? You're calling him elite already? I'm calling him elite because, to me, being an elite head coach is how you do your job, how you focus on your process. And people will be very quick to point out different situations where he took a gamble on his football team, mind you, and came up short. People fault him for the fourth down stuff against Washington, and I'm like, we wouldn't even be having this discussion if they convert on fourth down. The game's over. So what did Dan Lanning do? Rolled the dice on his football team to go and put the game away, which is kind of getting down a rabbit hole there. Talk about him, being an early in his career as a head coach. That's a totally fair point. But look at what he's done in a short amount of time at Oregon. If you were hiring today for your next college football coach to start your program around, and you couldn't hire Kirby Smart, I think you can make a discussion, then you can have an argument that Dan Lanning is the guy to hire there because of how he recruits, because of how he's built this roster. And you say, well, what was Mario Cristobal's roster before he got there? Fair point, had a good base to work with, but he also went to the portal and got some really key guys to make this roster and to make this team what it has been since he's been there. If they make no portal moves, they don't have the success they've had. And so that's all like a very tangible thing to point to. But I look at just the way that this team operates. You've heard me say this many times if you watch this show. Persona of your leadership filters down to be the persona of your football team. What is Oregon? Tough, gritty as heck, competitive, get after you. That's who Dan Lanning is. I believe that's how he coaches. I believe that's how he operates. I believe that's how he lives life. That is elite from where I'm sitting. I've said it many times. I believe that Dan Lanning will win a national title at Oregon in the not-too-distant future. So let's go game by game here, as we often do on this show. You got Idaho to start the year, club dub. You play Boise State. Boise State now, Oregon's going to win this football game, but Boise State may very well be that G5 team that makes the dance. So don't scoff at Boise State there. At Oregon State, a little run it back with the Pac-12 rivalry, with them no longer being in the same conference with Oregon and Oregon State. Oregon will win that handily. They go to UCLA. This time a Big Ten matchup. That's just weird, dude. Oregon and UCLA playing in the Big Ten. A Rose Bowl game as a Big Ten conference game. Very weird, but that'll be a dub for Oregon as well. Michigan State will also be a win. Now, then you have Ohio State in Autzen. And this is a game that, this legitimately could be number 1 versus number 2 in all of college football at that point in the year, depending on what happens in different sectors of the SEC leading into this game. I go back and forth on this game quite a bit. We'll give you our prediction the week of, obviously, for that game as well, and things can change. But right now, I think that when you look up and down the rosters for both sides, I think you can maybe give the edge defensively to Ohio State. But again, I think Oregon's probably right there. I think you probably give the edge on the perimeter right now. I would give that to Oregon defensively with, not defensively, offensively with an Evan Stewart and a Tez Johnson. Jeremiah Smith will be incredible. Like if you're arguing about that position group, like it is what it is. Like I don't have a big issue there. My point being, I think that you go group by group here, and you probably give the edge to Ohio State some spots, you give the edge to Oregon some spots, but at the most important position here, I give the edge to Oregon at quarterback. I'm not down on Will Howard. I just think Dillon Gabriel is going to be the difference maker in this game. Also, with it being an Autzen, that probably helps things. So you'll see Ohio State again if you're Oregon, probably in the Big Ten title game. But I think Oregon wins that game and they stay undefeated. Then you get a win at Purdue. You get a win against Illinois. And then you go to Michigan. Now, this is one that, honestly, Ohio State, from a roster level, will be your toughest test. Based on when you have them in the year, you're a little bit beat up. Depth is a big factor for everybody throughout college football, but like playing at Michigan at this point in the season, that could be your toughest test of your entire regular season. The thing that I like about Oregon's schedule is the fact that it ramps up, though. Like, as much as you talk about the fact that you have to go to Michigan and it's late in the year, like, that's all true. But at this point in the year, the only thing that I'm watching closely for Oregon is how Dillon Gabriel gets up to speed in this offense, because this offense is built off of making good decisions, making quick decisions. You can't make a good, quick decision if you're not 110% on the same page with your OC, with your receivers, with your line, all those things. And that takes time for a guy that just transferred in during the spring. But by November, you should be running and gunning. Everything should be clicking. It'll be a really good test in the trenches for Oregon. However, I think they win that game in Ann Arbor. You beat Maryland, you go to Wisconsin. This game could be a little bit trappy now. You got jump around blaring. You're in Madison. Luke Fickell, all he does is win big football games from where I'm standing with what he did with Cincinnati. Like, I like Wisconsin a lot this year. However, Oregon wins that game. Rivalry game to finish the year against the Huskies. I think Oregon's going undefeated. I do. I mean, say what you want. Their roster, their head coach, their quarterback, to me, again, they have all the makings of how an elite college football team should operate. And I think they will. Now, there's also, when we talk about Oregon, just going back to how I look at them as a team heading into this year, there's a lot to trust. There is a lot to trust. Like, we talk about how good can Dillon Gabriel be. I think he'll be really good. But let's say that he just, has a tough situation and he can't put it together and he's just playing poorly. One, that would surprise me. Like, that seems like one of the most unlikely scenarios for Oregon. Two, if the sky falls in and for whatever reason Dillon Gabriel isn't your guy, whether it be injury or whatever, like Dante Moore was one of the highest rated quarterbacks in his respective cycle. Like, he's also a guy that's going to be able to run the offense for you. He was a top 5 portal quarterback when he jumped in there, along with Dillon Gabriel, and Oregon got both. Like, defensively, I don't see a situation where the defense falls off the face of the earth. Very, very high floor outfit for me when we talk about Oregon. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.